our goal, as you know, is by 2050, we see a world with freedom, with consciousness and happiness for everybody. But in order to get there, we really have to go into the roots of trauma. So we are completely aligned there.
Before we go on, could you say, how did you pick 2050?
Well, 2050, we know from the latest reports from the United Nations that we are going to be 10 billion people in the planet. And it takes, from our theory of change, it takes around 25 million people to get to a tipping point. But those 25 million people have to impact on 400 people each. So when you see how trauma and growth grows and works across generations, you make some numbers, and it might be before. But I mean, you know how life is. You set a goal and then you manifest, and then let's see what happens. Yeah. But actually, I know that you have 2070, right? Yeah. For something.
Yes, I can explain that. So what I think happens is that 2023, we get approval from the FDA. A year or so later, MDMA is approved in Europe, and then the rest of the world. Psilocybin comes along. So by around 2025, we will really start building psychedelic clinics where therapists are cross-trained in all the different modalities. They customize the treatments for the people. And I think after a decade of that, and you said about how one person can influence 400, we need people to tell their stories. The FDA wants data. They don't want to hear the stories. People don't care about data. They want to hear the stories. And so if we have thousands and thousands of people, we're hoping to have like a million MDMA sessions in this decade, so that there'll be so many people telling their stories that we think by 2035, the culture will have evolved enough not to just talk about decriminalizing psychedelics, or legalizing marijuana, but to legalize all drugs, including psychedelics. And we think that'll happen in 2035, sometime around that. And then once that's accompanied with harm reduction, with education about peer support and all, then we have about 35 years or so of the spreading of the use of this and people having worked through their traumas, but also have these deep spiritual experiences that connect them with everybody. And I think it'll take a couple generations of that. And so that's 2070 that I think will have this spiritualized humanity. And another reason I think that is when you look at the Bible and the idea of Exodus and Moses, leading the Jews from slavery, into the promised land. They left Egypt, and it took them 40 years to make it into the promised land. Now, it's not that far. I mean, what has taken them 40 years? And the sort of mystical, biblical, one of the interpretations is that they wanted a new generation born into freedom that would start the promised land. They wanted the people that were born into slavery, that had the slavery mindset, to all die out. And then we'd have these children born into freedom that would start this new world. So I think we will need a base of happiness and a base of this post-traumatic growth enough for a generation or so, and then we could really move into this spiritualized humanity. So I hope that 2050 is more likely than 2070, but we'll see.